Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode number 3, Quarantine versus Quantum Leap. When we talk about quarantine, we're talking about quarantine of the mind. That will explain why many people have decided to just wait and see what happens. That's basically what quarantine of the mind is they've basically put their minds in quarantine. Quantum leap. We want to talk about quantum leap because a lot of people think that quantum leaps is almost just for the very selected few, that is just possible for certain gifted people. And we want to explain that that is completely not true. The only thing that's standing in your way is you. It is absolutely 100% you. If you only knew how gifted you really were. And if only you worked on your higher faculties, which are attached to your mind, and the higher faculties of the intuition, the imagination, the reasoning, the perception, the will, the memory, when you work on those higher faculties, you become so much more in tune with your heart and your passion and everything else, and things fall into place. You become that person where it's like everything just works for them. That is honestly, the biggest thing that we want you to recognize is that you can right now take control of your life and live exactly the life you want. But before we start with that, I want to ask you a question. What have you been emotionally involved with since the last episode? And ask yourself that question. Be truthful. Were you getting emotionally involved with the news, the debt, the problems, the issues, the feuds, do you know what I mean? Like family, whatever it is. Were you getting emotionally involved with the negative things? You might not be openly speaking about it, but in your heart, how have you been feeling it? Has it been a bit of a burden? And then ask yourself, would you paint a picture of all those things, negative things, and then hang it up on your wall and look at every day? Probably wouldn't make you feel good. It is really important for you to recognize that you need to focus on what you want. And that's why we want to offer you some tools and some tips and guidance, because the quicker you focus on the very things you want, the quicker you can make that happen. And you can. But you have to believe you can. And so a lot of what we're doing here is trying to help you understand that there is so much untapped potential in you if you're willing to open up to it. There is more to you than the outside strategies that you're looking at. Trust me, you can create anything in your life on your own without the help of anything outside of you. Now, mind you, when you are partnering with the right people and attracting the right people, that becomes pretty powerful. But there's the beauty when you're working within and you know exactly what you want, you will attract the right people. And you will know that you're on the right track. I really want to recommend you to purchase this book. Super small, super easy to read. This man is brilliant. I met him 6 months ago. He's a good friend of Bob Proctor's. Amazing man. He wrote this book and simplified it because his purpose is to see a lot of people recognize that they do have all they ever will need within themselves, that is all this potential locked up inside of them. And if they just realize the truth, they would release it. They would start focusing on the very things that will change their entire life. And so what I want to do is read the first chapter of his book. It's the opening, and it's a powerful one. And the reason why I open with this, because this is the biggest problem out there. Ask yourself, if you felt you worked harder, if you put in a little bit more effort, could you see better results? Do you believe you would see better results? Because the majority do believe that on some level. On some level, they believe that if they put in a little bit more effort or gave it a little bit more attention or did a little bit more worked a little harder, they would have the results that they want. So let me read you this. There's a small fly burning out the last of its short life's energies in a futile attempt to fly through the glass of the window pane. The winding wings tell the poignant story of the fly's strategy. Try harder. Now, Price was he lives in Toronto. He lives quite near Bob Proctor. They're close friends. And he was in a cafe and he's watching the fly across the room. And so that's where he got this story from. Try harder, but it's not working. The frenzied effort offers no hope for survival. Ironically, the struggle is part of the trap. It is impossible for the fly to try hard enough to succeed at breaking through the glass. Nevertheless, this little insect has staked its life on reaching its goal through raw effort and determination. This fly is doomed. It will die there on the windowsill. Across the room, 10 steps away, the door is open. 10 seconds of flying time, and the small creature could reach the outside world it seeks, with only a fraction of the effort now being wasted. It would be free of its self-imposed trap. The breakthrough possibility is there. It would be so easy. Why doesn't the fly try another approach? Something dramatically different. How did it get so locked into the idea that this particular route and determined effort offer the most promise for success? What logic is there in continuing until death to seek a breakthrough with more of the same? No doubt this approach makes sense to the fly. Regrettably, it's an idea that will kill. Trying harder isn't necessarily the solution to achieving more. It may not offer any real promise for getting what you want out of life. Sometimes, in fact, it's a big part of the problem. If you stake your hopes for a breakthrough on trying harder than ever, you may kill your chances for success. You know what? That was the very first page that Dr. Price Pritchett opened his book with, because it is that powerful. It is that powerful. Many believe that if they did the same thing, but tried harder, that they would have much better results. And it's just not true. The fly, unlike humans, the fly doesn't have the higher faculties. It doesn't have a reasoning faculty to get them to realize, hey, stop and let's rebuild. Let's do something new. Let's create a new model. It doesn't have the capacity to do that, but we humans do. And to have the knowledge that we have, to be guided to understand how our mind operates and to apply it to the situations that we have, and so that we can grow the very faculties that we have, is so much power. And I hope that with all of this, that we get you to understand that there is so much more to you than you realize. There's so much more hidden potential and power than you realize. But again, the problem is that the majority of the population is convinced that they don't have what it takes on some level. They sometimes believe that what they have is as good as it gets. And I'm going to tell you that no, the 1% became the 1% because they started studying this very material. They placed the power in them. They became so conscious and aware of their own thoughts, feelings, actions, everything. They surfaced all the garbage that is basically the beliefs that were planted in them at one time that made them believe that they could not do what they really want to do. And that's why a lot of people are living their lives daily, preventing themselves from really living the life they want. And they don't even realize that they're preventing themselves. And so we're trying to create a lot of awareness. But like Bob Proctor always said, only 1% thinks, 3% think they think, 96% would rather die than think. I would like to think that this is an exaggeration, but it's not, because the more I'm out there and the more I speak to people, I recognize that the only reason why they're not working on their mindset and they're constantly looking for strategy outside of them is because they truly don't realize that they do have the power within themselves to create anything that they want. They just need to work on those higher faculties that unfortunately are not taught in school. And once you work on those higher faculties, you will recognize that, wow, like, ask yourself this question: the intuition, doesn't it blow you away how our intuition works? Now imagine if your intuition was guided by a big vision in a dream. And then you understood how to build vision with the power of your imagination. And then you understood how to use the will to hold the image in your mind, that vision in your mind, so that way you never lose focus on what it is that you truly want. And then you're using reasoning faculties, not based on logic and what's around you. You're using your reasoning faculties with the imagination. Now you're thinking outside the box. Your reasoning is going way out there, which is necessary to create the very ideas that you need, so that you can bring that uniqueness to your business, to your vision. And perspective, so that every single time there's a situation that arises, that you can look at it from so many different perspectives that are going to help you, right? Help you rise above these situations, and so that you can keep climbing towards your goal and vision. So I want to read another chapter from this book. The Promise is the chapter. I really, like I said, Price Pritchett, Bob Proctor, all of them are just absolutely amazing, because all they're trying to do is get you to recognize how truly powerful you are. They were just ordinary people as well. And they explained that. And once they discovered what they were capable of doing and realized, like, oh my God, I need to share this. And this is why Bob Proctor, for 59 years, trying to explain to people, hey, guess what? You are gifted. And people are like, no, I'm not, right? So here, let me read you this chapter. Right now, in this moment, you are capable of exponential improvement in your performance. You can multiply your personal effectiveness, hit new highs, and shatter your old achievement records. The result you can have will be hard for you to imagine. You can become U squared. You don't have to settle for things that are as they are now. That can change dramatically. If you're ready, life is prepared to give you a breakthrough experience. You can jump to a higher orbit of achievement, live the dream, enjoy a completely different plane of success. Also, you don't have to be content with improving things incrementally or gradually. Just as your level of performance can improve drastically, so can your rate of accomplishment. Furthermore, the U squared formula requires far less effort than you've given it in the past. You haven't been reaching your full potential. So far, you haven't even come close. No matter how you wish to measure success, regardless of how you define achievement, you have barely scratched the surface of what you personally can accomplish. But maybe the time has come to change all of that. Maybe you're ready to make a quantum leap. Again, you are that powerful. It's living inside of you, but the choice is yours. Like I said, you have the ability to accept or reject any information that's presented in front of you. But ask yourself, are you getting tired of rejecting the very information that can transform your whole life? Just because there's voices in your head that is telling you this is not possible. I'm no genius. I could never get that done. I could never achieve that. Just be careful of those voices. That's all I want to share on that. I wanted to also talk about being careful about the words you use to describe yourself. The words that you use to talk, to belittle yourself. And this happens a lot. And even like the top leaders will say things and they're belittling themselves. Here's what I need you to recognize is that example. One is very, very popular is I'll hear people say, I'm not a confident person. And then I'll ask them, well, okay, well, are you confident being a parent? Are you confident in your job? Are you confident as a leader? Are you confident doing this, this, and that? And they're like, yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, so you're confident in pretty much all areas of your life, but the only place you're not confident is where is the unknown, the unfamiliar, the uncertainty. So that's the only place. So I wouldn't classify that as a person that lacks confidence. And they're like, well, yeah, I guess when you say it that way, so when you start looking at things differently, the things you are looking at start to change. It starts to change drastically. And this is very, very, very important. Perspective is everything. And that's what we help clients do over and over again, because we're allowing them to see the very things they can't see. So like, this is just one example, but when you become aware of even little things, you'd be surprised how impactful it is. Every one of us has this power. Picture a hose. It's got so much power, right? Water, it's on. The tap is on. So there's tons of power. But if there's a kink in the hose, then what's coming out of the hose is pretty weak. So picture yourself like that the more that you remove the kink, which the kink is the beliefs, the things that were planted in you that is limiting you, that is making you feel like you're less, the more you remove that, the more the power flows through. And no exaggeration, I swear to you, this is no exaggeration. This is amazing stuff. Now I want to use an example of how powerful words are and how much they influence your results. And some people will think, no, words, it's just words. I used to think it was just words, but hear me out. The word exercise. The image that whenever I would say, and I'm a professional athlete in case you're wondering, so why I'm using this example, but when I used to use the word exercise, a chore would show up, an image of a chore would show up in my mind. The images in your mind, you will get emotionally involved with those images, negative or positive. But in this case, it was a negative image because a chore, I never saw chores as a positive thing, right? So my emotions were a little negative towards exercise. Your emotions are controlling your behavior, your attitude, your actions. So imagine how my motivation was. I'm emotionally involved with a negative idea of a chore. I wasn't really feeling very motivated. So it was impacting my actions. And because of that, the results were impacted as well. When I started changing the word exercise to training, training in my mind was you're getting better, you're getting stronger, you're an athlete, you're training. There's so much more power to that word. And the emotional involvement was so positive. And again, if the emotions that you're feeling towards the picture in your mind is positive, then how do you think it's impacting the attitude, the actions, the behavior? Well, in a positive way. I no longer need to pull myself out of bed. I'm like feeling alive. I'm self-inspired. I'm fully motivated within myself. And it's so, so powerful because now my results are amazing. So the words you use, there's so much power to the words you use. So just keep that in mind. So we're going to leave you with 2 tasks. The first task is recognize the negative words you use to explain yourself, explain others. Write it down. You don't have to share it with anybody. Just write them down. Or if you say, I don't like this town, or I don't like this weather, or just things that you constantly say that you don't like, write it down. That's going to be your task. Write down all the things you say you don't like about yourself, about where you are, where the things are happening. Write them down. It is so important to create some awareness of the very things you're saying to yourself over and over and over again. And then look at those things that you write down and ask yourself, could it be that these words that I'm using are actually sabotaging me over and over and over again. Your mind, you give direction to your mind. You might not be aware that you're giving direction to your mind, but you are, with the words and the focus you have on these things that are going on in your life. So number one, recognize, write down, take note of all the things that you say to yourself that are negative. Write them down. The second task I want you to do is figure out what you want. What is the vision? What is the dream? What would you love? And here's the beauty. If you wrote down all the things that you don't like, all the things that you don't want, all the things that frustrate you, guess what? It becomes very, very clear what it is that you do want. Because the opposite of what you don't want is what you do want. So it becomes, I'm helping you paint a clearer picture to connect you to who you truly want to be and the life that you want to live.